say, I like the way the car looks fairly sporty without being too immature. I also like the way that the wheels and tyres nicely fill out the arches rather than looking like you've got scooter wheels on it like some small cars do. And when you look at the front, you can certainly see the Maserati styling in the headlamp. I also like the way that the whole car just sweeps straight up with no real interruption. And there's a couple of little points on the car which remind you that it's Italian and it was really designed for looking good and has no function at all whatsoever.
Hello, welcome back to Auto Animals. I'm James and I'm here with the Abarth Grande Punto. We are finally doing the review of it. You've seen it on the channel for the last few months and we're finally going to get the review of it. And how does it compare to the Grande Punto we did, which is, to date, the best viewed video we've ever had. So there's going to be some comparisons. I apologise for a few things. First of all, the flies. There are flies everywhere. I don't know if you can see them, but I can feel them. I apologise for the dirt on the car. We have had so much trouble trying to get this filmed. I washed this a couple of weeks ago in preparation of filming and the weather went crap. So this is the first opportunity we've had with sunlight in Britain in November. Please ignore the state of the car. Anyway, moving on. So this is the first car that Abarth, as a newly formed separate company from Fiat, within the Fiat group obviously, launched. They took the regular Grande Punto and they gave it some Abarth magic. So it's not just stickers and badges. They took the 1.4 turbo from the Sporting. It's a 1.4 Fiat Fire engine. I can't remember what the Fire stands for, but it stands for something. It goes way back to the Uno in the 80s, so this is possibly even older than that. So this is an old engine, but still very good. This is a 2009, late 2009 Abarth Grande Punto. They only made them from 2008 to 2010. There are only 350-ish sold in the UK. This is one of only 250 or 40 left in the UK, so it is rare. It's 155 horsepower. I believe 230-ish newton meters of torque or pound-foot of torque with the sport boost turned off, and around 260, 265 I think it is with it on. So it's not just the engine that they've done, they've tweaked suspension, they've given it obviously a hell of a styling upgrade. It's got, I believe, a slightly different exhaust system. I think it might even be a different turbo as well. There is a lot more mechanical stuff that I maybe don't get and understand or remember what they did to it, but there is a fair few changes. It feels like a proper hot version of the Super Mini it's based upon, much like everyone else in that generation was doing. You look at the Mark 6 Fiesta ST, for example, it is just a hot version of the existing car. It's not a standalone car. There's a few styling changes, mostly this grille that's unique to the Abarth Grande Punto, obviously the Abarth badges. I've made a few modifications as well, such as the Abarth lettering down the bottom, which is an aftermarket add-on. You've got these great big fog light surrounds on the sports bumper. You've got black plastic, goes pretty much the whole perimeter of the car, and you've got these lovely black 17-inch alloys which were an optional extra. I'll put a picture up of the standard alloys these came with. Came one of three colours, white, black or speed red. I think the other two had fancy names as well. Yeah, the Abarth badge up on the hip. There are no Punto badges anywhere on the car. So moving around to the back of the car, we've got this lovely gloss black sports spoiler, more Abarth badges. It is so dirty, I apologise. The black plastic that wraps the full 360 of the car continues. So you've got this sort of sporty element at the bottom here with the twin exhaust pipes. there's not an awful lot else really to show on it. I mean, it's got, technically we've got sort of skirts, the black plastic skirts, give it a sort of a sportier stance. It is lowered as well compared to the standard car. For the most part though, that's kind of it. The only other thing, if you come down to the front, so around the front, it's these headlights. So these are, I think, the ones from the Series 2 of the Grande Punto, because there was a revision halfway through the Grande Punto's life. So it's got the black inserts. Ignore the card on the headlight lens, that's me. Overall, I would say it's a pretty good looking car. It doesn't look as mean as what it could do. The 595, 695s obviously look a lot meaner. But it's kind of like how the Fiesta ST and Focus ST are. It's kind of like they're understated. Like how the Golf GTI is like an understated version of a hot hatch. That's what you get with this. Oh, so moving on to the inside, to the interior. Big solid thunk. So it's familiar, but there are a fair few differences. First of all, it's these big chunky bolstered seats, big sports seats with the big integrated headrests with the Abarth logo in them as well. There is faux leather, I assume, everywhere. So you've got a leather trimmed steering wheel, leather trimmed gear knob, leather trimmed very squishy handbrake. You've got leather in the doors, padded leather. You've got leather all around this dash as well, stitched. It just generally feels, I mean, even all around here where the headlight dimmers are and everything, it's just this plush, squishy leather. It feels good for a car of what it was at the time, was like, what, 14 or 15 grand, I think, possibly a bit more. But yeah, it feels like a good car. There's still the same plastics and stuff up here, but they're kind of squishy as well, though. Nothing feels particularly cheap about it. I mean, the indicator stalks are still your typical Fiat plastic affair, but again, they don't feel terrible. There is an issue with those though, while we're on that. The auto cancelling is a little bit, I've asked other owners about this and they say it's just kind of how it is, but I never had this on the Grande Punto. But if you are indicating and it self-cancels, if it self-cancels too vigorously, it will come off and then it will connect as if it's doing a flash the other way. So you'll stop indicating left, and when you straighten the wheel up, it'll flash 3 times right, and vice versa. So, bit of a bugbear there. Same when you cancel the indicator yourself, you have to do it gently like that, because if you do it like that, it bounces so much, it flicks the lane changing one again on the other side. Hazard lights been replaced in the centre there by a big Sport Boost button, which is a different colour. Hazard lights moved over there. We don't have the city button like you had on the regular Grande Punto, because that would lighten up the steering. The Sport Boost button makes the steering heavier. We've got this sort of very faux carbon fibre effect on the dash here, which is not even really carbon fibre, it's just a dotted grey, really. You get 6-speed as standard. Being Italian, the cup holders are awful. They're only really good for espressos. There's a metal kick plate down in the passenger footwell. You've got metal pedals for the driver. You get one touch down electric windows and one touch up on the driver's side. I've asked why the passenger side doesn't have it as well. Apparently it's a safety feature. Don't understand that when that rubbish Astra we've got has one touch both ways on both doors, so who knows. Generally there's not an awful lot of trickery and fun going on in here. It's like we have cruise control with resume function. It did have a CD player with the Fiat Blue Me system, so exactly the same one that was in the Grande Punto we did. I've ripped that out and replaced it with an Android unit from Icebox Auto, which you can see in a separate video, card in the description, or card popping out at the top, sorry, so you can see that video. So we've got the separate Bluetooth mic up here for that. You get this lovely black headlining and black trim everywhere, so there is none of this pale grey or beige that you got in the regular Punto. It's black everywhere, and I quite like that. Some people say it makes the car feel very claustrophobic, but I like that for a hot hatch. It's more focused. Still get no damping on any of the handles, but you do get handles on both sides. We have a multifunction trip computer as well, and Abarth unique dials. The trip computer, if you flick it round, can show the boost gauge, so you can have a permanent boost gauge on there, which I love. Definitely brings out the boy racer in you a little bit, watching the bars go up when it's on boost. We have then got the Abarth logo over here as well on the dash, along with this sort of faux aluminium strip and a chrome glove box handle, though that is an aftermarket one. It was the same mat as this strip, but I had to replace it because the glove box handle broke, and that's what the eBay ones are like. We've also got our Abarth kick plates in the doors. Yeah, it's generally quite a nice, comfy place to be. And these seats, I'll mention it when we're doing the drive-through, I think, but I was very surprised by these. When we test drove it, I was not expecting them to be as good as they were. So very pleased. Let's check out the boot. It's the same as the Grande Punto, but let's check out the boot and the back seats. Okay, so we'll check out the boot. As with the regular Grande Punto, there's no button. That's something that the Punto Evo got, I believe. So we have to rely on the button on the remote again. Please ignore the stuff in the boot, but it's the same boot. It's got the same depth. It's got a space saver, I believe, under the thing. Or no, it doesn't actually. It's just a tungsten repair kit. But if you took that out, it's a fairly big well. You've got the same seats, although they're not split folding. It's a single bench. I guess they decided what's the point of putting split folding in our bath. The squabs are meant to come up as the back goes down, but the squabs are broken. So I can only put the back down, it doesn't fold flat. But otherwise, standard boot, apart from the sub and the Dynamat sticker, because this one's had Dynamating in it. But yeah, this has got the Fiat sub in it. Other than that, it's exactly the same as the old one. Should we try the back seats? Okay, so we're going to give the back seats a go. This is not going to be flattering, okay? So I apologise if this doesn't look great. Pull the seat forward. Remember, this is a 3-door only. That's as far as it's going to go. That's as far as it's going to go. Right. I don't think... No. No, this is not a James-friendly car. I ain't getting in the back. I physically don't fit. But realistically, I think you could get kids in here with no legs. I don't know what they've done compared to the regular Grande Punto, but the rear seat space has disappeared. Admittedly, these seats are pretty much as far back as they're going to go. But yeah, they would be fine for a normal, conventional sized person. But there is almost no leg room. Okay, so that's what the car is like. Let's go see what it's like to drive. Okay, so out on the road, it does feel quite a bit different from the regular Grande Punto, as you'd expect. It's pretty planted. It does, you know, it's the main thing you feel is the power. If I'm totally honest, it feels like a different beast. It's like, I mean, I'm not going to demonstrate, but this thing will spin its wheels in second gear with the sport mode turned on. I always drive it with sport mode turned on anyway. It's a lot stiffer than the regular Punto. You feel every jolt and every bump. Definitely they've got the sport suspension on point there. It does, as a result, it doesn't lean so much into the corners. It's a lot more, like I said, planted and yeah, when you put your foot down, it does throw you in your seat. Definitely, it's a good noise. Don't forget this has got an aftermarket filter on it though. The thing is, generally driving it is hilarious. It's a lot of fun. It's it wants to play. It's like a little puppy at the leash. It wants to go. It feels more grown up, I would say, than the 595s. So I do find, compared to the 5-door Grande Punto that we drove, this 3-door is, when you crack the windows open, there's a lot less road noise, a lot less wind noise coming in. I don't feel the need to have the wind deflectors installed on the windows, so it's much nicer in that regard. This particular one has had Dynamat, I believe, sound deadening installed in the floor, so that does help a bit. But there is still a fair bit of road noise. This is not definitely not a creature comfort luxury car by any stretch of the imagination. Let's face it, it's a tarted up version of a regular Punto, but it is incredibly well trimmed in here. The main thing is the performance. It goes 6-speed as standard, which you don't get on the 595s. It's quite comfortable to cruising at normal motorway speeds. Cruise control with this one as well. It just loves you just to cruise around, and it has no issues at all doing that kind of thing. The steering it's good. I don't want to say traditional like car review cliche of it's razor sharp and all that kind of stuff. It is a bit squidgy. Not gonna lie. It's, I don't know if squidgy is the right word. It's not the most responsive steering in the world. It's good, but I wouldn't say it's dart-like. I imagine the 595 is probably more direct because of the short wheelbase, the lightness of the car, probably got more tuned steering. And the 595 is considered to be, the car it's based on, the 500 is considered to be a very good driving car. Maybe not quite up there with a Mini, but yeah, this by no means feels bad, but it's just, it could be more. It could do with a bit of tightening up in the steering. It's I do like as well that the when you put the Sport Boost mode on, it does make everything a little bit heavier, a little bit sportier, a little bit you feel it more. And the throttle response is a hell of a change. Like, it literally just sort of, you put it down and it will just rip away. Putting the Sport Boost on actually unlocks the torque. I can't remember the exact figures, but I think it unlocks it from something like 230 to 260 pound-foot of torque. So it does add a fair bit, and you notice it. You really do. Like, if I put my foot down in second, it squeals away. It really wants just to go. Like, I mean, I'm in sixth at the moment, cruising along at 40. We're in a 50 zone, so I'm going to plant it, and we're doing 50. And that's in sixth. Like, you think you would have no grunt left in top gear at that kind of speed, but no, it just goes. So this one's got the standard 6-speaker plus sub Fiat hi-fi sound system. You could get one with an upgraded sound system, but this is the standard one, and it still sounds absolutely great in the rear. The sub is great, the rear speakers are great, front speakers are pretty much, I imagine, carried over wholesale from the regular Punto, and you can tell it's not the greatest. I tend to have the speakers leaning towards the back instead as a result. I am going to change the fronts at some point. So I love the noise of this thing. It's not anywhere near as good as the Mini Cooper S. I would absolutely rate that for noise. Actually, no, tell you what, scrap that. I would rate the Abarth 595 and 695s for noise over this any day. Like, I've been to a few Abarth meets now, and the noises those things make just when idling, let alone when they're moving, is amazing. They sound exactly like what a hot hatch to sound like. This, even with the aftermarket air filter, it's got a nice low-end rumble at idle, but it's not as boisterous as I want it to be, as you'd expect it to be. You got to remember, this was our Abarth's first attempt at a standalone brand car. The only car they had available at the time was the Punto. It was either that or the Panda, and I mean, I think the Punto was definitely a better bet, because then Vauxhall obviously turned their version of this car, the Corsa, they turned that into the VXR, much great acclaim. Well, they are a bit John Everyman, aren't they? Everyone has a Corsa. Why have a Corsa when you can have a Grande Punto? You really do feel every lump and bump in the road, but that's no bad thing. It's almost like you feel the traction. You feel when you feel safe. You know better when you feel safe enough to do certain things with the handling. Basically, it feels safe in tight corners. You never feel like you're out of your depth. That's a lie. You do occasionally. If you really give it welly and it starts to lose its traction a bit, with Sport Boost on in lower gears, like I said, I mean, it was spinning its wheels in second gear. Maybe I need new tyres. Yeah, the important thing is it's a very fun ride. And the thing is, it's comfortable. I mean, okay, there's no getting around the fact I'm a very big chap, okay? No one's going to be doubting that. And when I came to test drive this car, my biggest concern was, am I going to fit in these bucket seats? Turns out, yes, very well. It's very comfy. Genuinely, I've got plenty of room for my legs. I've got a clutch rest. Visibility is good as always. Like I said, I still feel like a Mini Cooper S would be more nimble, zippy, to quote their marketing, go-kart like. But this is still, I don't know, this feels more like a grown-up hot hatch, I guess. I feel like this would look not unsuited next to a Fiesta ST, which was one of its main rivals, I think, at the time. The previous gen ST to the current one. Again, you boot it in sixth, you hear the turbo come on song. It feels like I'm in a much lower gear, to be totally honest. Actually, it's quite odd. It feels like a lot more than the 155 horsepower it's meant to have. This feels as if not more sprightly than the Mini Cooper S, which is 174 in the guise that we drove. Oh, tractor. It's the joys of driving through rural Suffolk. So the other downside to driving in rural Suffolk is, yeah, the roads are definitely very uneven, very lumpy, bumpy. You do feel it, and you feel it through your fingers, not just your bum. I know that my husband, he hates being a passenger in this car because of how stiff the suspension is when you're going over bumps. He says how I drive it. I don't know about that. Like every little bit of paint in the road, you can feel it. It's just the other thing as well. This being an older car and me being a very heavy chap, is the back seat rest creaks a lot. I do wonder if at some point that's just going to give up on me. For the most part, though, actually, to be honest, road noise is not at normal cruising speeds like this, when we're doing just over 30 on a country back road that is a 30 limit. And yeah, it's fine. It's really, the road noise is not that bad at all. I do think they missed a trick by not having some kind of proper sports exhaust on this. I know it has a sporty exhaust, but I would say that there's more they could have done. Possibly added as an option that you could have had a proper sports exhaust. There might have actually been one, I'm not certain, but I don't think there was a sports exhaust option. There might have been something with the SSA one. You definitely get exclusivity with these. Like every Abarth event I've been to, I've had at least one or two people tell me I didn't even know they made Abarth Puntos or Abarth versions of those. Because everyone hears Abarth or sees Abarth and they think 595, 695, that's it. Or 124 Spider and GT. That push. But these have fallen into obscurity. I mean, they pretty much did when they were new. The problem is reviewers gave it less than desirable reviews because they spent the whole time comparing it to a Fiesta ST. But rightly so, it is its main competitor. I just feel in isolation they could have given it more on its merits. So, Abarth Grande Punto. Concluding thoughts, is it worth it over the regular Grande Punto? Absolutely. Is it better than the Mini Cooper S, the other car we've been comparing this to for the most part? Yes and no. It feels like a bigger, more grown-up car, but the Mini Cooper S does have it pipped for handling, general finesse. The Mini also feels a little bit more upmarket than it would be. It's a BMW product, I guess, whereas this is a early to mid-2000s Fiat product, which means it's by no means a bad thing, but it's not going to be in the same class as the Mini. This gets overshadowed heavily by the 595. I've had so many people tell me they didn't even know they made an Abarth version of these, because the 595 came out maybe a year or two after this started. This was very much the genesis of the new Abarth project, when it became its own company in 2008. And while this didn't completely flop, it didn't do great, but if it hadn't have sold a certain amount of units, I get the feeling the 595 and so on, the future of Abarth would have been quite different. This is the first one they ever did. If it didn't work out, what's to say they would have just binned the entire project and said, right, no one wants hot Fiats anymore. Who knows? Okay, so that's been our review of the Abarth Grande Punto. I hope you liked it. If you've got any thoughts on this review, or you've got one yourself, or you know someone who's had one, or you just really hate my shirt or something, leave a comment below, because any comments will help YouTube show this video to more people of the world, and we'd like that. There's not enough reviews of these cars, and there's not enough love for them. So thank you again for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, as I've said, subscribe. That would really help us out. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye. It's what a hot hat hinge is. Hot. Okay, so that's it for our review of the Abarth Grande Punto when this car has finished going past, so I can continue my lines without road noise. Stop looking at me, you greasy old f***.